Nathan Cross stood 3 meters from the rose garden entrance, his eyes moving in practiced patterns across the palace grounds. Afternoon sunlight filtered through ancient oak trees, casting shifting shadows over guests who mingled with champagne glasses and polite conversation. The garden reception had been planned for weeks, a small gathering for extended family members, low-key by royal standards, but requiring the same vigilant attention as any public event. Prince Louie crouched near a stone fountain, examining something in the grass with a focused intensity only a 7-year-old could manage. His security detail maintained respectful distance, allowing the boy freedom within the secured perimeter. Nathan tracked the child's position automatically, part of the constant awareness that defined protection work. A man moved through the crowd with purpose that caught Nathan's attention. Camilla's cousin, approved on the guest list, had arrived an hour earlier. Nothing remarkable about him initially, middle-aged, well-dressed, proper credentials. But his movement now carried different energy. He walked past other family members without acknowledgement, his gaze fixed on the fountain where Louie played. Nathan adjusted his position, closing the angle. The cousin's pace increased slightly, not running, nothing that would alarm other guests, but deliberate in a way that triggered Nathan's training. The man's hands were visible, empty, but his body language radiated determination rather than casual family warmth. Louis stood up, holding what appeared to be an interesting pebble. He turned toward the main garden path, completely unaware of the approaching figure. Nathan moved. 3 smooth strides placed him directly between the cousin and the prince. The man's hand was already extending, reaching toward Louis with unexpected speed. "Sir, I need you to step back, please." Nathan's voice carried calm authority, no aggression, just unmistakable firmness. The cousin stopped abruptly, surprise flashing across his features, before quickly shifting to indignation. "I'm simply greeting my young relative. Surely that's permitted at a family gathering." Nathan held his ground, his body language professional but unyielding. "Protocol requires maintaining appropriate distance, sir. I'm sure you understand." Other security personnel had already noticed the exchange. 2 guards repositioned from the east lawn, their movements casual to outside observers but clearly coordinated. Louis looked up from his pebble, confusion crossing his small face as he registered the sudden tension. The cousin's jaw tightened. This is absurd. "I have every right to speak with family members. Sir, please remain where you are." Nathan kept his tone even, his hands relaxed at his sides, his entire presence communicating complete control without threat. Prince Louie tilted his head, studying the scene with a child's directness. "Nathan, is something wrong?" Before Nathan could respond, Senior Protection Officer Victoria Hayes appeared at the garden entrance, her expression neutral, but her eyes assessing everything instantly. The afternoon had just transformed from routine observation to active security situation, and everyone present knew it. Victoria's arrival shifted the atmosphere immediately. She approached with measured steps, her presence commanding without theatrics. The cousin's expression flickered between offense and something harder to read. Calculation, perhaps, or barely concealed frustration. "Good afternoon," Victoria said, her voice carrying the particular courtesy that security professionals used when establishing control. "I'm Officer Hayes. I understand there's been some confusion about protocols." The cousin straightened, attempting to reclaim dignity. "There's no confusion on my part. I was merely approaching to say hello to Prince Louie. We are family, after all." But this guard intervened as though I were some kind of threat. Nathan remained positioned between the man and Louie, his stance unchanged. He'd learned years ago that protection work was often about what you prevented rather than what you stopped. The cousin's use of the prince's name, the way he emphasized family connection, the defensive justification before being formally questioned, all of it registered as wrong. Victoria nodded slowly, acknowledging the words without accepting the premise. Family gatherings at the palace follow the same security guidelines as all events. Unaccompanied approach to minor members of the royal family requires prior coordination with protection staff. I'm certain this was explained during your security briefing upon arrival. I didn't realize a simple greeting required. All physical proximity required coordination, Victoria interrupted smoothly. No exceptions, regardless of family relationship. I'm sure you can appreciate the necessity. Louis watched the exchange with growing confusion. He'd attended enough formal events to recognize when adults were being polite while something else was happening beneath their words. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked quietly, looking up at Nathan. Nathan glanced down briefly, his expression softening just slightly. "No, Your Highness. Sometimes grown-ups need to sort out details about rules. Nothing for you to worry about." The cousin seized on the moment. "Exactly. There's nothing to worry about. I simply wanted to introduce myself properly. Perhaps show Louie something I'd brought for him, a small gift, really, nothing significant." Victoria's eyes sharpened. "You brought an item for Prince Louie? That wasn't declared during security screening." It's merely a small token," the cousin stammered, his confidence cracking. "A family heirloom, really. Something I thought he should have." 2 additional guards had positioned themselves at strategic points around the garden. The other guests continued their conversations, most unaware of the developing situation, but Nathan noticed several family members glancing toward the fountain area with increasing interest. Victoria extended her hand, palm up. "I'll need to see this item, please." The cousin's face flushed. "I don't have it with me at this exact moment." "It's in my jacket, which I left inside. I see." Victoria's tone remained perfectly neutral. "Officer Cross, please escort Prince Louie to the blue drawing room. Arrange for staff to provide refreshments." "Your Highness," she said, addressing Louis directly, "we need to handle some administrative matters. Would you mind waiting inside for a few minutes?" Louis looked between the adults, clearly understanding this wasn't actually a request. "Okay," he said slowly. "But is that man really in trouble just for saying hello?" "We're just making sure everyone follows the same rules," Nathan said gently, gesturing toward the palace entrance. "Keeps things fair and safe for everyone." As Nathan guided Louis away, the boy glanced back once at the cousin, who now stood surrounded by security personnel with considerably less confident posture than moments before. Victoria's voice carried across the garden, professional and inflexible. "Sir, I'm going to need you to come with me for some clarification questions. This won't take long if you're cooperative." The cousin's protest began immediately. "This is completely unnecessary. I'm being treated like a criminal for attempting basic family interaction." Nathan didn't hear Victoria's response. He was already walking Louis along the stone pathway toward the palace, his hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder, his mind processing everything that had just transpired and everything that still felt unresolved. The reception continued behind them, champagne glasses still clinking, conversation still flowing, but the afternoon had fundamentally changed in ways most guests would never realize. Louis broke the silence. "Nathan, was he going to hurt me?" The question hung in the air, direct and impossible to dismiss. Nathan chose his words carefully. "I don't know what his intentions were. That's why Officer Hayes is talking to him now. My job is making sure you're safe, even when we're not certain about something." "But he seemed nice," Louis said quietly. "Sometimes that's exactly why we need to be careful," Nathan replied. The blue drawing room's tall windows overlooked the east garden, far from the reception. Louis settled into one of the upholstered chairs, his legs dangling above the carpet. A staff member appeared within moments, offering juice and biscuits with practiced discretion before withdrawing silently. Nathan stood near the doorway, maintaining visual contact with the corridor while keeping Louis in his peripheral vision. His earpiece crackled with brief updates. Victoria had moved the cousin to a private security office. Additional personnel were reviewing guest credentials. The reception continued without visible disruption. Louis nibbled a biscuit, his earlier curiosity shifting toward something closer to worry. "Are my parents going to be upset with me?" "Why would they be upset?" Nathan asked, genuinely surprised by the question. "Because I was by myself. Because something happened." The boy's voice carried the peculiar logic of children who sometimes assumed responsibility for adult situations beyond their control. Nathan moved closer, lowering himself to one knee so they were at eye level. "Your Highness, you did nothing wrong. You were exactly where you were supposed to be, doing exactly what children do at garden parties. The situation that developed had nothing to do with your actions." "Then why does everyone seem so serious?" "Because we take your safety seriously," Nathan said simply. "That's our job." Sometimes that means being extra careful about things that might turn out to be nothing at all. Louie considered this, swinging his legs slowly. The man said he had something for me, a present. Nathan's attention sharpened. Did he say what kind of present? No, just that it was something special. Something about family. Louie paused. Do you think he was lying? The question revealed more awareness than most adults gave children credit for. Nathan chose honesty over reassurance. I think Officer Hayes is finding that out right now. Until she does, we wait here where everything is comfortable and safe. His earpiece activated again. Nathan listened for several seconds, his expression unchanged, before acknowledging the transmission with a brief touch to the device. He pulled out his phone, typing a quick message to the command center. What did they say? Lewis asked, reading Nathan's body language with surprising accuracy. Just updates. Nothing you need to worry about right now. That's what adults always say when something is actually wrong. Nathan almost smiled despite the circumstances. Fair point. How about this? Officer Hayes is asking the man detailed questions about why he wanted to talk to you. She's very good at understanding when people are telling the complete truth versus leaving parts out. Once she's satisfied with his answers, we'll know more. And if she's not satisfied, then we follow different procedures to make sure everyone stays safe. Louie absorbed this, his young face serious. Nathan, do people try to hurt us a lot? The question cut deeper than the boy probably realized. Nathan sat in the adjacent chair, abandoning formal protocol for honest conversation. Most people in the world have no interest in causing harm to anyone. But your family has a unique position, and that sometimes attracts attention from people who want things or feel certain ways about royalty. My job and the job of everyone on your protection team is making sure the very small number of people who might have bad intentions never get the opportunity to act on them. So you stop bad things before they happen? Exactly. Which means sometimes we interrupt situations that might have been completely innocent, just to be certain. It's better to be too careful than not careful enough. Louie nodded slowly, processing this framework. Is that why you were watching that man? Because something about him seemed wrong? Nathan paused, considering how much operational detail was appropriate for a 7-year-old. I watch everyone. That's the job. But yes, something about how he moved and where he was focused made me pay extra attention. When someone walks past multiple people they supposedly came to visit and instead heads straight toward you with that kind of focus, it raises questions. What kind of questions? Questions about intention, about what they really want, about whether their explanation matches their behavior. Nathan's phone vibrated with an incoming message. He glanced at the screen, reading quickly. Lewis waited, demonstrating the patience that formal royal training had instilled from an early age. When Nathan looked up, the boy spoke before he could. They found something, didn't they? Officer Hayes found some inconsistencies in his story, Nathan confirmed. The present he mentioned isn't something he brought today. His explanation for wanting to talk to you specifically keeps changing. Those inconsistencies mean we need to understand his actual intentions before allowing any further contact. So he was lying, or confused, or nervous and not explaining himself well. That's what the questioning determines. A knock at the door preceded Victoria's entrance. She carried a tablet and the focused expression of someone who'd just confirmed suspicions. She nodded to Nathan before addressing Lewis directly. Your Highness, I apologize for the interruption to your afternoon. The gentleman who approached you has been asked to leave palace grounds. End of footnote. He won't be attending any future events here. Lewis straightened in his chair. Did he want to hurt me? Victoria's face softened slightly. We don't believe he intended physical harm. But his reasons for wanting to speak with you privately weren't appropriate, and his explanations weren't truthful. That's enough for us to remove him from access. What did he really want? Victoria glanced at Nathan, a brief, silent communication passing between them. That's still being investigated. What matters is that Officer Cross recognized something concerning and acted appropriately. You're completely safe, and you've handled this situation with impressive maturity. Louie seemed to grow an inch at the praise. Can I go back to the reception? The reception is concluding naturally, Victoria said. Your parents have been informed of the situation and will speak with you shortly. For now, Officer Cross will stay with you. Victoria left after providing Nathan with updated instructions through a combination of verbal briefing and information displayed on her tablet. The cousin had been escorted to the main gate under supervision, banned from royal properties indefinitely, his name flagged in security databases across all residences. Intelligence was conducting deeper background analysis to determine whether the incident warranted further action beyond administrative removal. Nathan's phone showed messages from Derek Palmer, the intelligence officer assigned to review the cousin's digital footprint and financial history. The preliminary findings painted an increasingly concerning picture. Social media posts expressing resentment about family wealth distribution, multiple recent inquiries about palace event schedules, search history indicating research into royal protection protocols. Louis had moved to the window, watching guests depart from the reception below. Luxury vehicles arrived in coordinated sequence, collecting attendees whose afternoon had remained pleasantly uneventful. The boy's reflection in the glass showed contemplation beyond his years. "Nathan, how many times has something like this happened?" "Like what specifically?" Nathan asked, wanting to understand what Louis meant before answering. "Someone coming to an event who wasn't supposed to be near me. Someone who lied about what they wanted." Nathan joined him at the window, maintaining professional distance while acknowledging the seriousness of the question. Incidents where someone's intentions don't match their stated purpose happen more often than you'd think. Most are resolved quietly without you ever knowing. Today was unusual because the approach was direct enough to require immediate intervention. "So usually you stop them before I even see them?" "That's the goal. Security works in layers. Background checks, credential verification, behavioral monitoring during events. If something concerning appears in those earlier layers, it gets addressed before direct contact becomes possible. Today, the cousin passed initial screening because his family connection was legitimate. The concerning elements only became clear through his actions at the event itself." Louis turned from the window. What was he researching about protection protocols? The question revealed that Louis had been listening more carefully to the adults' conversation than they'd realized. Nathan respected the intelligence enough to provide a real answer. People who want to approach you inappropriately sometimes try to understand our procedures so they can exploit gaps or timing. They look for moments when you might be less directly supervised, or situations where their presence wouldn't immediately trigger response. Like being by the fountain during a family party. Exactly like that. You were never actually alone. I was watching, as were other officers. But to someone observing from a distance, it might have appeared as though you were isolated enough for a brief conversation. "What did he really want to talk to me about?" Nathan hesitated. The intelligence report suggested the cousin had experienced recent financial difficulties and had made vague references in private messages about family obligations and rightful recognition. The exact nature of what he'd planned to say to Louis remained unclear, but the pattern suggested either an attempt to leverage the interaction for personal gain or to create a situation that would force family response. "We're still determining that," Nathan said carefully. His explanations kept changing during questioning, which usually means the truth is something he doesn't want to admit. Officer Hayes is very experienced at recognizing when someone is constructing a story rather than recounting facts. Louis processed this, his expression thoughtful. "You looked nervous when you stopped him. Not angry at first. Nervous. Like he'd been caught doing something he knew was wrong." The observation was remarkably perceptive. Nathan had noticed the same micro-expression, that flash of genuine fear before the defensive indignation appeared. You have good instincts. That initial reaction often tells more truth than the words that follow. Is that why you moved so quickly? Because you saw something in how he looked? Partly that. Mostly it was the combination of factors. His focus on you specifically, the way he ignored other family members, his pace increasing as he got closer, his hand already extending before any greeting was exchanged. Individual elements might mean nothing, but together they created a pattern worth interrupting. The door opened after a brief knock. Prince William and Catherine entered, their expressions carefully neutral, but their body language revealing parental concern. Louis immediately went to them, and Catherine embraced him while William's eyes met Nathan's over the boy's head in silent question. Nathan provided a concise summary, professional and factual, while Louis remained in his mother's arms. William listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening slightly at certain details, but his overall composure maintained. "Thank you, Officer Cross," Williams said when Nathan finished. "Your awareness and quick response prevented what could have become a much more complicated situation." Catherine addressed Lewis gently. "Are you all right? That must have been confusing." "I'm okay," Lewis said, his voice slightly muffled against her shoulder. Nathan explained things. "The man wasn't supposed to approach me like that." "No, he wasn't," William confirmed. "And now we know he won't have the opportunity to make that mistake again. But I want you to understand something important. What happened today wasn't about you doing anything wrong. You were simply being yourself. And that's exactly what you should always be able to do. Nathan said his job is stopping bad things before they happen." "That's absolutely right," Catherine said. "And he's exceptionally good at his job." Derek Palmer arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a secure tablet and wearing the focused expression of someone who'd uncovered information requiring immediate attention. He nodded respectfully to William and Catherine before requesting a private word with Nathan in the adjacent corridor. The intelligence officer kept his voice low, angled away from the drawing room door. "The cousin's background gets worse the deeper we look. Financial problems started 8 months ago. Failed business venture, significant debt accumulation. His social media shows increasing bitterness about family wealth disparity, posts questioning why certain relatives enjoy privilege while he struggles." Nathan absorbed this, his mind connecting implications. He saw Lewis as leverage. "That's our working theory." Messages recovered from his phone show conversations with someone we're still identifying, discussing opportunities at palace events and getting attention for legitimate grievances. Nothing explicitly threatening, but the language suggests he planned to create some kind of scene or confrontation. Using a child as the catalyst, Derek's expression darkened. He researched palace security protocols extensively. Downloaded diagrams of grounds layouts, studied shift change patterns published in unauthorized websites, even watched video footage from previous events to analyze guard positioning. This wasn't impulsive. He'd been planning an approach for weeks. The gift he mentioned doesn't exist. We searched his vehicle, his belongings, contacted his residence. No heirloom, no present, nothing matching any description he provided. Pure fabrication, likely intended to justify close proximity or extended conversation. Nathan felt the familiar cold anger that came with recognizing genuine threat. Not the explosive rage that clouded judgment, but the focused intensity that sharpened awareness. "What's the assessment on his partner in those messages?" "Still working on identification. The number is registered to a prepaid account. Probably burner phone. Content suggests someone familiar with media operations, possibly planning to document whatever interaction the cousin managed to create. Film it, spread it online, use it to pressure the family on financial or personal matters." William appeared in the doorway, his timing suggesting he'd been listening despite the lowered voices. How sophisticated was this plan? Derek straightened immediately. "Your Royal Highness, sophisticated enough to exploit legitimate family access, but not sophisticated enough to account for attentive protection officers. He assumed security would be relaxed during a small family gathering. He was wrong. What happens now from an intelligence standpoint? Full background investigation, monitoring of his communications and movements, assessment of anyone he's been in contact with who might share similar intentions." The individual he was messaging with is priority for identification. We need to understand if this was isolated planning or part of a broader pattern. Catherine had joined William at the door, Lewis visible behind them examining books on a shelf, apparently engaged in his own world again. Should we be concerned about other family members at these events? If he could pass initial screening, could others? "We're reviewing the entire guest verification process," Derek assured her. "This incident revealed a gap in how we assess family-connected visitors. That gap is being closed immediately. Enhanced background checks, behavioral monitoring during events, stricter proximity protocols regardless of relationship." Nathan added, "The reception format itself is being reconsidered. Open garden settings with multiple areas create natural separation that can be exploited. More contained spaces with clearer sight lines might serve better for future family gatherings." William nodded slowly. "I appreciate the thoroughness, But I don't want Louis growing up in an environment where family events feel like security operations. There has to be balance. Agreed, Derek said, but today demonstrated that even approved, family-connected guests can carry intentions that don't align with the event's purpose. We're not suggesting eliminating informal gatherings, just ensuring the security framework matches the actual risk level rather than assume safety based on family status. Louis appeared beside his father, looking up at Derek with open curiosity. Are you the person who looks at computers to find information about people? Derek smiled despite the serious conversation. That's a pretty accurate description of my job, Your Highness. Did you find information about the man from the garden? The adults exchanged glances. Catherine placed a hand on Louis's shoulder. Officer Palmer found enough information to know that Officer Cross made the right decision stopping him. That's what matters most. But what did he want? Really want? Not the present story. Derek crouched down, meeting Louis at eye level the way Nathan had earlier. Sometimes people who are struggling in their own lives make poor decisions about how to solve their problems. We believe this man thought that talking to you might give him some kind of advantage or attention that would help with his difficulties. That doesn't excuse his behavior, but it helps us understand. It wasn't about you personally. It was about what he thought he could gain. So he was going to use me? The blunt assessment startled the adults. While Santiago went into the ship, Derek recovered first. In a sense, yes. He was thinking about his own needs instead of what was appropriate or respectful to you. Louis processed this with the same thoughtful expression he'd worn throughout the afternoon. I'm glad Nathan was watching then. So are we, William said firmly. Very glad. Nathan's phone vibrated with an update from Victoria. The cousin had been collected from the main gate by the unidentified contact, captured on security cameras, but the vehicle plates traced to another prepaid rental. The partnership was confirmed, the planning more coordinated than initial assessments suggested. Intelligence was escalating the investigation to include potential surveillance of both individuals. He shared the update quietly with Derek, who immediately began coordinating expanded monitoring protocols. The afternoon's incident had transformed from isolated event to opening thread of something requiring sustained attention. Louis tugged his father's sleeve. Can we go home now? I'm tired of thinking about all this. Catherine smiled, though concern remained visible in her eyes. Of course. Let's get you back where you can just be yourself without worrying about complicated adult situations. As the family prepared to depart, William approached Nathan directly. I want a full briefing tomorrow morning. Everything you observed, every detail that contributed to your decision to intervene. This is going in the record as exemplary protection work, and I want to understand exactly what training and awareness made the difference today. Yes, sir, Nathan responded. And Nathan? William's voice lowered. Thank you, not just professionally, but personally. That's my son, and you kept him safe when things could have gone very differently. The next morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through the briefing room windows. Nathan sat across from William, Victoria, and Derek, a detailed incident report displayed on the screen behind him. Security footage played in silent loops, showing the cousins' movements throughout the reception from multiple camera angles. Victoria directed the presentation, her narration clinical and precise. Subject arrived at 1342. Credentials verified against approved guest list. Initial behavior appeared consistent with normal reception attendance. Greeting family members, accepting refreshment, casual movement through garden areas. The footage shifted to a wider angle. At 1408, subject's pattern changed. He positioned himself near the terrace with clear sightline to Prince Louie's location. For the next 17 minutes, subject maintained visual contact with the prince while appearing to engage in conversation with other guests. William leaned forward, studying the screen. He was tracking Louis's movements. Correct, Derek confirmed. Watch his body orientation. Even when facing other people, his attention repeatedly shifts to wherever Prince Louie moves. He's waiting for something specific. The footage advanced. Louis moved toward the fountain, momentarily separated from the nearest guests by a hedgerow and decorative stonework. The cousin immediately disengaged from his conversation and began walking with clear purpose. "This is where Officer Cross's positioning became critical," Victoria said. Nathan appeared on screen, already moving to intercept before the cousin had covered half the distance. Nathan recognized the approach pattern and responded within 4 seconds of the subject's movement initiating. William watched Nathan's on-screen movement, smooth, unhurried, but decisively placing himself in the cousin's path. "What specifically triggered your response?" "What made this different from any other guest moving through the garden?" Nathan kept his voice measured, analytical. Several factors converged simultaneously. The subject abandoned his conversation mid-sentence without social courtesy. His walking pace was faster than ambient garden movement, but controlled enough not to draw general attention. His hands were visible and positioning forward, anticipatory rather than neutral. Most significantly, his gaze never wavered from Prince Louie despite multiple social cues that would normally cause someone to acknowledge their surroundings. You read intention through body language. I read inconsistency between stated purpose and demonstrated behavior. Someone genuinely wanting casual family interaction would have approached other relatives first, established social presence, allowed natural conversation flow to include the children. This subject avoided all that, waited for isolation opportunity, then moved with singular focus. That pattern indicates predetermined plan rather than spontaneous greeting. Derek pulled up additional documentation on a tablet. We've now identified the second individual involved in planning. Martin Shepard, freelance media operator with history of selling unauthorized royal content to tabloid outlets. He was positioned outside palace grounds with professional camera equipment during the reception. Catherine, who had joined the briefing late, looked up sharply. They were going to film whatever happened. That's the assessment, Derek confirmed. Messages between the cousin and Shepard discuss capturing authentic moment and letting the public see real family dynamics. Our interpretation is they plan to create confrontation, possibly the cousin making financial demands or accusations in front of Louie, filming the child's reaction and any security response, then distributing the footage as evidence of family coldness or mistreatment. William's jaw tightened. Using my son's confusion or distress as content? Precisely. The cousin's changing explanations during questioning support this. He initially claimed simple greeting, then mentioned a gift, then discussed family matters requiring Louis's attention specifically. Each version was likely a tested narrative for whatever conversation he intended to have on camera. Victoria advanced the presentation to post-incident analysis. We've reviewed guest approval protocols going back 18 months. The cousin requested attendance at 4 previous events, all denied due to insufficient direct family connection. This invitation was approved because he claimed reconciliation interests with Queen Camilla specifically, provided references from 2 legitimate family members, and passed standard background screening. William asked directly. The screening checked criminal history, public social media, basic financial status. All appeared unremarkable. What we missed was deeper pattern analysis, the timing of his financial troubles coinciding with increased royal event interest, the sophistication of his security research, the development of media connections. Those elements weren't flagged because they existed in separate data categories that our previous protocol didn't cross-reference adequately, Derek added. We've since implemented integrated threat assessment that combines financial distress indicators, media association patterns, unusual research behavior, and event access requests into single analytical framework.
The cousin would have been flagged immediately under the new system.
Nathan's phone displayed a message from Palace Security Coordination. He read quickly before sharing. Shepard has been located and interviewed. He's claiming journalistic interest in authentic royal family documentation, denies any coordination with the cousin beyond casual acquaintance. His equipment was positioned to capture the fountain area specifically, which contradicts his claim of general event coverage.
Catherine asked.
Complicated, Victoria admitted. The cousin was removed before any actual contact occurred. Shepard was on public property outside palace grounds. Their planning discussions are concerning, but don't explicitly outline criminal intent. We're consulting with legal counsel, but administrative sanctions and monitoring may be our primary recourse. William stood, walking to the window, overlooking the same gardens where yesterday's incident had unfolded. I want both individuals under continuous surveillance. If they attempt contact with other family members, other children, or show any indication of escalating their approach, I want immediate notification and legal action. Already arranged, Derek confirmed. Additionally, we're reviewing all upcoming events for similar vulnerability patterns. Any gathering, including minor royals, now requires enhanced screening regardless of guest family status or event informality. Nathan watched William's reflection in the window glass, seeing the tension between protective father and public figure who understood security, couldn't eliminate all risk without eliminating normal life entirely. It was a balance every protection officer recognized, but royals themselves had to navigate with particular difficulty. Catherine addressed Nathan directly. Louie asked about you this morning. He wanted to know if you'd be assigned to other events or if yesterday was the last time he'd see you. I'm part of the rotating protection detail, Nathan explained. You'll see me regularly at various functions, though not exclusively. He said you explained things in a way that made sense without making him feel frightened. That's a rare skill. He's perceptive beyond his years. Seemed appropriate to respect that rather than offer empty reassurance. William turned from the window. I'm recommending you for commendation. Quick recognition, decisive action, appropriate communication with the principal during a developing situation. Textbook protection work executed under circumstances where hesitation could have resulted in significant incident. Nathan accepted the acknowledgment with a brief nod. Just fulfilling duty, sir. Any officer on the detail would have responded similarly given the same observations. Perhaps, Victoria said, but you were the one who made those observations while others missed the pattern. That's why we're incorporating your assessment methodology into updated training protocols. How you read behavioral inconsistency, prioritized multiple data points simultaneously, and responded with appropriate force level. Those elements become teaching framework. 3 days after the garden incident, Nathan reported for morning shift assignment at the Palace Security Coordination Center. The room hummed with quiet efficiency, monitors displaying camera feeds from multiple royal residences, communication consoles connecting protection details across London, intelligence analysts reviewing overnight reports. Victoria gestured him to a private office where Derek was already waiting with files spread across the desk. Both wore expressions suggesting developments that complicated the initial assessment. Shepard cracked during follow-up questioning. Derek began without preamble. Admitted the cousin approached him 6 weeks ago with a specific proposal: create footage of genuine royal family interaction that would demonstrate emotional distance and wealth disparity. Shepard saw it as provocative journalism. The cousin saw it as leverage. Nathan settled into a chair. Leverage for what specifically? Financial settlement to avoid public embarrassment. The plan was cruder than we initially thought. The cousin intended to ask Louie direct questions about family wealth, expensive possessions, privileged lifestyle, questions designed to make a 7-year-old uncomfortable, while cameras captured everything. Then he'd approach other family members demanding compensation to prevent the footage from being released to media outlets. Victoria's disgust was evident, despite her professional tone. Essentially attempted extortion using a child's recorded discomfort as the commodity. What Shepard's legal exposure? Nathan asked. Conspiracy to commit extortion, potentially harassment of a minor depending on how prosecutors interpret the planning. His cooperation is buying some leniency, but he's facing charges. The cousin is in worse position. He initiated the scheme, researched security vulnerabilities, gained access under false pretenses. Crown Prosecution Service is building a case. Derek pulled up additional documentation on his tablet. More concerning is what we found in the cousin's communications beyond Shepard. He's been in contact with 3 other individuals who've expressed similar grievances about royal family wealth. One of them attempted to approach Princess Charlotte at a school event last month. Nathan's attention sharpened immediately. Connected attempts? We're still determining connection versus coincidence. The Charlotte incident was handled quietly. Unauthorized person tried to engage her during a supervised outing, was removed by school security before direct contact. We initially assessed it as overeager royal enthusiast. Now we're reconsidering whether it was coordinated probe to test response protocols. Victoria activated a screen showing network analysis. Lines connecting the cousin to various contacts, sub-connections spreading outward in complex web. What started as isolated incident is revealing itself as potential coordinated effort. These individuals share online communities, exchange information about royal schedules and security procedures, discuss strategies for gaining access or attention. Are we talking organized conspiracy or loose association of people with similar complaints? Nathan needed clarity on threat scale. Somewhere between, Derek assessed. Not formally organized with leadership structure, but definitely information sharing and mutual encouragement. They've created private forums where they discuss legitimate grievances and accountability measures in language that sounds political but increasingly suggests willingness to use confrontation. Nathan studied the network diagram. How many individuals are we monitoring? Active monitoring on 17 who've demonstrated specific interest in event access or proximity to family members. Passive monitoring on roughly 40 others who participate in discussions without yet showing actionable intent. The numbers concern us less than the sophistication of their coordination. Victoria brought up message excerpts, redacted to protect operational details, but revealing enough to demonstrate the problem. They're learning from each attempt. After the Charlotte incident, they discussed what went wrong. Too direct, too public, insufficient preparation. The cousins' approach at the garden reception incorporated lessons from that failure. Family connection for access, informal setting for reduced security visibility, preset camera documentation. They're iterating their methodology, Nathan observed. Exactly, and each iteration becomes training data for the next attempt. We're in an evolving threat cycle, where our responses teach them to adapt, while their adaptations force us to enhance protocols. Derek leaned back, rubbing tired eyes. Intelligence assessment suggests we're dealing with individuals who've convinced themselves they have legitimate grievances that justify increasingly aggressive approaches to being heard by the family. They view security intervention as suppression rather than protection, which reinforces their sense of victimization. Self-fulfilling cycle, Nathan said. They approach inappropriately. We respond appropriately. They interpret the response as validation of their persecution narrative. While planning more sophisticated next attempts, Victoria confirmed, "We've documented discussions about using children as more sympathetic access points because security might hesitate or respond with less force. They're specifically targeting events where minors are present because they believe our protocols create exploitable gaps." Nathan felt the cold calculation behind such thinking. They're weaponizing our responsibility to avoid frightening children. That's our concern. The cousin's approach to Louie was calibrated to seem innocent. Family greeting, gift offering, friendly conversation. If you hadn't intervened immediately, if you'd allowed even 30 seconds of interaction while assessing threat level, Shepard's cameras would have captured footage of Louie talking with someone the family then had to forcibly remove. Either way creates problems. We look paranoid if we intervene too quickly, or negligent if we wait too long. Derek brought up a tactical assessment. We're implementing new protocols that eliminate the dilemma. No unauthorized approach to minors is tolerated regardless of how innocent it appears. Family connection doesn't create exception. Friendly demeanor doesn't create hesitation. Any adult moving toward a royal child without pre-coordinated clearance gets immediate interception, full stop. That's going to generate complaints about excessive security, Nathan noted. Better complaints than compromised safety, Victoria said flatly. We've briefed senior family members. They understand and support the enhanced restrictions. Some expressed concern about the children growing up with such rigid protection, but agreed the current threat environment justifies the measures. Nathan considered the operational implications. This changes the security posture for every family event. Garden receptions, school functions, public outings, all require elevated monitoring and quicker intervention thresholds. It does, Victoria acknowledged. We're also implementing counter-surveillance measures to identify and document anyone filming or photographing events from outside secured perimeters. Shepard's camera setup went unnoticed because we weren't looking for external documentation teams. That gap is closed. Derek added, we're coordinating with Metropolitan Police on the individuals we've identified. Most aren't London-based, which complicates jurisdiction, but we're establishing information-sharing protocols. If any of them appear near royal residences, schools, or known family locations, we get immediate notification. Nathan's tactical mind was already processing scenarios. What about events the children attend without full family presence? School plays, sports activities, friend gatherings? We can't maintain palace-level security in every environment. Victoria pulled up a new document outlining expanded protection frameworks. We're working with the schools and activity venues the children attend. Enhanced staff training on recognizing surveillance behavior, updated visitor protocols requiring advanced registration and identity verification, designated security liaisons at each location who maintain direct communication with our command center. Derek pointed to specific sections for private events like birthday parties or playdates. We're providing host families with security briefings, what to watch for, how to report concerns, emergency contact procedures. It's delicate because we're asking civilians to participate in threat awareness without creating paranoia. How are the families responding? Nathan asked. Mixed reactions. Some appreciate the transparency and want to help. Others find it intrusive or worry it'll make their children uncomfortable around the royals. We're trying to strike balance between necessary precautions and maintaining normal childhood experiences. Victoria's expression showed the frustration of impossible trade-offs. The core problem is that these individuals have identified the children as vulnerability points precisely because we're trying to give them normal lives. The more normal the environment, the more access opportunities exist. The more we restrict access, the less normal their experiences become. Nathan understood the paradox intimately. Protection work always involved this tension, but with children, the stakes carried different weight. What's the assessment on escalation potential? Are we looking at individuals who might progress from attempted filming to actual physical approach or harm? Derek hesitated before answering. Psychological profiles are inconclusive. Most appear driven by financial desperation and entitlement rather than ideological extremism or violent intent. But desperation can motivate actions people wouldn't otherwise consider. We can't rule out someone deciding that creating actual incident, even minor physical contact or verbal confrontation, would generate more valuable footage than staged questioning. Especially if they believe security response proves their point about family arrogance or disconnect from regular people, Victoria added. They're building narratives where any protective action we take becomes evidence supporting their grievance claims. Nathan's phone showed an incoming message from the morning shift supervisor. Prince Louie was scheduled to attend a school assembly later that day, standard event but now requiring enhanced assessment given current threat environment. He shared the notification with Victoria and Derek. Louie has school function this afternoon, presumably that's getting elevated security attention. Already arranged, Victoria confirmed. 2 additional officers assigned, advanced security sweep of the venue, background checks on all attending families updated within last 48 hours, designated security coordinator embedded with school staff throughout the event. Is Louie aware of the enhanced measures? His parents briefed him this morning, told him security might be more visible at school events for a while, emphasized it's not punishment or response to anything he did wrong, framed it as simply being extra careful during a time when some people are acting inappropriately. Derek closed his files, organizing them into a secure folder. We're walking a difficult line. The children need to understand basic safety awareness without becoming fearful or suspicious of everyone around them. Wow. Lewis handled the garden incident with remarkable maturity, but we don't want him constantly analyzing whether people's intentions are genuine. Has he asked about the cousin since the initial incident? Nathan inquired. Victoria nodded, asked his parents whether the man was in trouble, whether he'd try again, whether other family members might do similar things. Ben, Catherine said he's processing it like he processes most complex situations, asking direct questions until he builds a framework that makes sense to him. Did they tell him about the extortion plan? No. They explained the cousin had problems in his own life and made poor choices about trying to solve them, which is accurate without exposing him to the manipulative details. 7-year-olds don't need to know adults were planning to exploit their discomfort for money. Nathan appreciated the careful balance. Children deserve truth appropriate to their developmental capacity. Not sanitized fiction, but not adult-level darkness either. He'll probably see me at the school function this afternoon. Should I maintain usual protocol or acknowledge the previous incident if he brings it up? Maintain usual professional engagement, Victoria advised. If he initiates conversation about it, answer honestly but briefly. Don't expand beyond what he asks. Our child psychologist consultant suggested that following his lead, letting him determine what he needs to discuss, helps him maintain sense of control and normalcy. Derek stood, gathering his materials. Broader situation update. We're coordinating with Interpol on 2 of the network members who are foreign nationals. One is German, one Canadian. Both have made concerning statements about visiting London to see the truth about royal privilege firsthand. Could be tourism interest, could be planning unauthorized approach attempts. We're monitoring their travel and denying entry if they can't provide legitimate, verifiable visit purposes. Are they communicating with a cousin or shepherd? Nathan asked. Not directly in channels we've accessed, but they're active in the same forums, discussing similar tactics, sharing the same grievance narratives. We're treating them as potential coordinated threats until proven otherwise. Victoria walked Nathan to the door. You'll receive updated briefing materials before the school event. Familiarize yourself with the threat profiles we're most concerned about. Unlikely any of them would risk school approach given current scrutiny, but we prepare for what's possible rather than what's probable. Nathan paused at the threshold. Are we informing other protection officers about the network analysis? Seems relevant for anyone working family details. Full briefing scheduled for this evening. Every officer assigned to Royal Family Protection gets comprehensive threat update, new protocol training, and specific profiles for the individuals we're monitoring. This doesn't stay compartmentalized. Everyone needs the same operational picture. As Nathan left the coordination center, his mind processed layers of complexity the garden incident had revealed. What appeared as isolated event had exposed organized effort, loose but coordinated, adaptive, and learning. The cousin's approach to Louie was an aberration. It was test case for methodology others were watching and refining. He thought about Louie at school later that day, participating in normal childhood activity while multiple layers of security worked invisibly to ensure that normalcy remained possible. The boy would never know how many threat assessments, monitoring operations, and tactical preparations surrounded his simple attendance at an assembly. That ignorance was itself protection, allowing him to experience childhood without the weight of constant threat awareness. Nathan's job, and the job of every officer on the detail, was maintaining that protective ignorance while staying vigilant against the increasingly sophisticated efforts to breach it. The afternoon would be routine for Louie. For the security team, it would be calculated defense against evolving tactics from people who'd learned that children represented both vulnerability and opportunity. The school assembly took place in a converted hall with high windows and rows of chairs arranged in neat semicircles. Parents filled the back section while students sat cross-legged on the floor near the stage where teachers prepared presentations about the term's achievements. The atmosphere carried typical pre-event energy, children fidgeting, parents chatting quietly, staff making last-minute adjustments to audio-visual equipment. Nathan positioned himself along the side wall with clear sight lines to both entrance points and Louis's location among his classmates. 2 additional officers maintained positions near the exits, appearing casual but strategically placed. The school's designated security liaison, a vice principal named Helen Cortez, stood near the main door with a tablet containing updated attendee verification. Louis sat between 2 friends, engaged in animated conversation about something involving dinosaurs and a recent museum visit. His body language showed complete comfort, no residual anxiety from the garden incident visible in his posture or engagement. Catherine sat 3 rows back among other parents, deliberately maintaining normal presence rather than hovering protectively. Nathan's earpiece carried quiet updates from the perimeter team. All attendees had been verified against registration lists. No unknown vehicles in the surrounding area. Camera feeds showed normal pedestrian traffic outside the school grounds with no surveillance indicators detected. Helen approached Nathan discreetly. We had one parent arrive without pre-registration. Forgot to submit the form online. We verified identity through school records and existing contact information before allowing entry. That's the only irregularity. Appreciate the diligence, Nathan said quietly. Hopefully these enhanced measures won't be permanent, but right now they're necessary. The staff understands. We'd rather deal with administrative inconvenience than security incident. Helen glanced toward the assembled families. Some parents have asked why we've tightened procedures. We've explained its general security enhancement without mentioning specific threats. Seems to satisfy most concerns. The assembly began with the headmaster welcoming families and introducing the program. Students would present projects, perform musical pieces, and demonstrate various learning achievements. Standard celebration of academic progress that happened at schools across the country every day. Nathan's attention divided between the presentations and continuous environmental monitoring. Parents recording on phones. Normal. A father shifting positions to get better photos of his daughter. Normal. Movement near the back entrance as a latecomer entered quietly. Verified against the registration list within seconds by Helen. Normal. Louis participated in a group presentation about historical architecture, holding up drawings of Roman aqueducts while explaining their engineering significance with impressive confidence. Catherine watched with visible pride, recording video like any other parent documenting their child's achievement. Nathan's phone vibrated with a priority message from Derek. He read quickly, his expression unchanged but his awareness intensifying. One of the monitored network members had been detected attempting to access school visitor schedules through a phishing email sent to administrative staff. The attempt had been blocked and reported, but it confirmed active targeting of the children's educational environments. He forwarded the information to Victoria and the perimeter team. Enhanced monitoring protocols activated automatically. Additional camera review, expanded verification of everyone present, heightened alert status without visible operational change. The assembly continued without disruption. A choir performance drew applause. Science demonstrations generated impressed murmurs. Individual student achievements were recognized with certificates and parental approval. Louis received acknowledgement for mathematics excellence, walking to the stage to accept his certificate with appropriate formality before returning to his seat with barely contained grin. During a transition between presentations, Nathan noticed Louis glance in his direction. The boy's expression showed recognition and something else. Perhaps reassurance at seeing a familiar face in an environment that now carried subtle additional security presence. Nathan offered the smallest nod of acknowledgement, professional but not unfriendly. The assembly concluded after 90 minutes. Families dispersed gradually, students rejoining parents while teachers managed the controlled chaos of dismissal. Catherine collected Louie, who immediately launched into excited description of his friend's robotics project. Helen approached Nathan again as the hall emptied. No incidents? Everything proceeded normally? Exactly as it should, Nathan confirmed. Thank you for the coordination and attention to protocols. Will this level of security become standard for all school events? Nathan chose his words carefully. We're assessing threat environments continuously. As situations evolve, our measures adapt accordingly. Hopefully we'll be able to reduce enhanced protocols once certain concerns are resolved. Certain concerns meaning the people trying to approach the royal children inappropriately? The directness surprised him slightly. Helen noted his reaction and smiled without humor. I've worked school security for 15 years, Officer Cross. I understand what coordinated visitor verification and last-minute protocol changes mean. Someone's targeting these children, and you're preventing them from succeeding. That's accurate enough, Nathan acknowledged. Then I hope you catch them quickly, so Louis and Charlotte and George can just be students without requiring tactical planning around their attendance.
Helen's voice carried protective edge that transcended professional duty.
These are good kids who deserve normal school experiences. Whatever security measures you need, we'll support them, but I hate that they're necessary. Nathan understood the sentiment deeply. So do we. Catherine and Louis approached, the boy still talking enthusiastically about the assembly. He paused when he saw Nathan, his expression shifting to something more serious. Nathan, were you here because of the garden thing? Because someone might try something at school? The directness was characteristic, but still caught Nathan slightly off balance. Catherine's expression showed she wanted to intervene, but was allowing Louis to ask his questions. Nathan crouched to Louis's eye level, aware of Helen discreetly stepping away to provide privacy. I was here because you were here. That's how protection works. We're present at your activities to make sure everything stays safe and normal. But more than usual, right? Mom said security might be extra visible for a while. That's true. We're being more careful than usual because some people have been acting inappropriately around your family. Once we're confident those people understand they can't approach you or your siblings, things will probably feel less intense. Lewis considered this with his characteristic thoughtfulness. Did they try to come to my school? Catherine placed a hand on his shoulder, ready to redirect if needed, but Nathan saw value in honesty within appropriate boundaries. Someone showed interest in school schedules, yes. We stopped them before they got any actual information or access. Your school's security is excellent, and we're working together to make sure it stays that way. So I'm safe here. You're safe here, Nathan confirmed. You're safe at home, safe at events, safe at everywhere you go because lots of people are paying attention and working together to keep you that way.